Hello, dear passengers. This is your captain speaking, and we are about to take off for another episode of Adventulina. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the first episode of Adventulina for 2025. Happy New Year, and may this be a year of countless trips, numerous flights, and nights spent away, and of course, tons of memories on the road. Hope you had a nice holiday time wherever you were in December, and hope you're ready to kick off 2025. I bet a lot of us have some New Year's resolutions. Something to stick to, something we are motivated to accomplish, so I hope you accomplish it, whatever that is. End of the year went well over here. I got the pleasure of spending about 10 days in Mexico, as you guys know. So this trip pretty much ended 2024 and started 2025 for me. Couldn't ask for something better in both. And Mexico was amazing in general. It was my first time there and I was super excited. I knew I was gonna love it, but I'm not joking when I say it literally surpassed my expectations multiple times. And how should I not like it? Sun and heat in December, incredible food, ton of places to see, kind and sweet people, and on top of that, Spanish coming from all sides. Yes, enough of this English, I'm sorry, I'm just tired of everything being in English. From the very first moment I wake up in the morning to the very last moment before I go to bed, every freaking word is in English. Talking wise, listening wise, everything wise. My thoughts are in English. I even talk to myself in English. And I don't even curse in Bulgarian anymore. English curses just come naturally and I don't like it. I don't get to speak my language anymore as, my Bulgarian friends are all on the opposite side of the country. And I only use Bulgarian for, texting my family daily and FaceTiming with them once bi-weekly, but that's it. I at least keep reading books in my language because this is one of the things I love doing and I'm not giving it up to English, sorry. There's enough English throughout the day, so I'm a reading Bulgarian. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, Spanish. So some of you know how fascinated by Spanish I am. I'll try to explain this in the shortest possible way so it makes sense for the rest of the episode, but pretty much when I was in middle school, the soap opera Pasión de Gavilanes was super popular in Bulgaria. Every goddamn teenager was watching it, or at least the girls. Everyone loved the cast, everyone had their favorites, the whole thing. So the best part of this show for me was the intro song. It was probably my first real Spanish experience, if we don't count, I guess, Enrique Iglesias on MTV, And because the episodes and the dialogues were dubbed in Bulgarian, I didn't get to hear a lot of Spanish speaking while watching it, but the song was always in Spanish. At the beginning of each episode. So I got hooked, and I even remember going to the computer club because, yes, that's how old I am. There used to be a time of my life where I didn't have a personal computer at home. For the offensively young ones who are listening, PC means a personal computer. Just kidding. Anyway, I didn't have my own computer at the time, so I had to go to a computer club and pay to use the internet. Man, that kind of feels like it was in a different lifetime. So I remember searching for the lyrics of the Pasión de Gavilanes song and writing them down on a piece of paper. I even looked up the translation because, I was curious what it meant in Bulgarian. And it's been 20 plus years. I still know this song by heart and I still love it. And that's how my love for Spanish started. I just loved hearing the language and it was so cool to me. It just sounded like everything was a song. I don't know. At the time, I was already studying English, but I knew at some point we were gonna have to pick a second foreign language, so it was already decided for me. I went to high school, and after another 2 years of studying English, we got to pick new languages. Unfortunately, out of almost 100 people, only a few wanted Spanish. I remember one guy and I, from my class, were the only ones. Everyone else wanted to study German, and Russian. So you know how things go in these cases. The majority gets to decide for the minority. So I had to pick between Russian and German. Then I heard that whoever enrolls in the German class will go on a trip to Germany the next year. So I was like, hell yeah, sign me up. I can't study the language I want, but I can at least go on a trip, and a free one. So I studied German for a couple of years, but it wasn't my language. I want to be clear, I don't have anything against the country or the people or anything else. It's just not making me feel as good as Spanish does. Let's put it this way. And for me, if I don't like something, I suck at it. I'm bad at it, and if I'm good at it somehow, I would just sabotage myself just because I hate it. I don't know if that made any sense. Overall, I pick up languages fast, and it's easy for me to learn, but only if I like it. If I don't, can be the easiest thing in the world. I won't lift a finger to understand it or to practice it. So with a trip coming my way, practicing a language I wasn't interested in, I proceeded to be probably the worst student ever when it came to, that specific subject, German. I never paid attention in class. I was playing games and even arguing with the teacher. Yeah, stupid kid, not proud of it now. I was doing basically anything not to even touch the material that she was teaching. I just disliked it. I wouldn't even take notes or write things down. I remember borrowing my friend's notebook and writing everything at once at the end of the semester, knowing that the teacher will check our notebooks, So I was just waiting for the time of the trip, and I was living my life unbothered until they announced that only people who have the highest grades will go on that trip. Sure, why not? I'm sorry, but that wasn't explained to us earlier. And I literally wasted 2 years of my life studying something I wasn't interested in without even getting the promised award at the end. What the hell? Well, maybe when I say studying, I am highly exaggerating, but I just felt screwed. And maybe that made me dislike the language even more. I don't know. Literally for 2 years of studying German, and you can see, but I'm kind of quoting that, I know nothing. You know nothing, Jon Snow. Literally, that's the type of situation. I can tell you, ich heiße Evelina, which I probably don't even pronounce correctly, and Gesundheit, which means health. And for some reason, just stuck to my mind to remember it 20 years after. Nothing else. Oh, and I know a few curses, but I don't even know them from school, so I'm not gonna give credit to school about that. At the same time, one of my best friends moved to Spain back then and got a Spanish boyfriend. So I remember when she was in Bulgaria for vacation, she would talk to him on the phone, and I was so fascinated. I just loved listening to her. One time they were even fighting over the phone, but it sounded so good, and I was like, oh, just keep going, please keep talking. She was like, you moron, we were fighting. Then I went to university, and I had another opportunity to pick a language, and god damn it, there were not enough people for Spanish again. I was like, what is wrong with you guys? Spain is right here. How can you not want to study this beautiful language? But anyway, that went to hell too. And then years later, I spent a summer in San Francisco as an intern, and I lived with a girl from Ecuador. I also met other people who spoke Spanish the same summer, so they would teach me some short things to say, and I just started remembering how much I loved hearing Spanish. My internship ended, so I went home to Bulgaria, and I decided to start studying Spanish by myself. I bought some books, dictionaries, I got Duolingo, the whole thing. I had a little progress, and then I remember I would text my Spanish-speaking friends something in Spanish, and they would be like, what? That's how I found out that Spanish in Spain is very different than Spanish in Mexico or Spanish in South America, and that pretty much every Spanish-speaking country has its own Spanish. So yeah, my efforts with Duolingo didn't go so far. But when I moved to San Francisco, I knew this was the best time. With so many Spanish speakers, here it's almost a shame not to know Spanish, especially with so many Spanish-speaking friends around like mine. So back in 2023, I started classes 1-on-1 online with a teacher from Colombia. Shout out Danny if you're listening. And if anyone is looking for a Spanish teacher, I give you my word, She is it. So text me and I'll give you her details. I was taking classes for maybe over half a year in 2023 and just had to stop when my schedule became kind of crazy as I didn't have time to take classes anymore. But I never actually stopped practicing. With so many close people speaking Spanish around me, I got to hear it almost every day. I got to learn how to listen and be in a natural environment. I also switched all my ads and stuff to Spanish, watched shows in Spanish, and much more. So when it was time to go to Mexico, I wasn't just excited for another destination crossed off my bucket list. I was excited to actually be surrounded by Spanish speakers for 10 days and to force myself to speak. Because believe it or not, I sometimes can be shy as fuck when speaking Spanish. And oh boy, I am everything but shy. You guys should know at this point. I barely shut the fuck up, but when it comes to speaking Spanish in front of native speakers, sometimes I'm terrified at first. I'm just overthinking every word, and I'm kind of embarrassed that I'm gonna make a mistake before I even open my mouth. Well, that was when I had the choice of continuing the conversation in English if Spanish didn't work. But in Mexico, for about 80% of the time, that wasn't an option because a lot of people there, the majority I would say, did not speak English, but I kind of loved it. It put me out of my comfort zone. It forced me in a good way to get over my embarrassment and being shy. I was specifically proud of myself when I went to a person and asked how much the magnets were. Yes, you're right, for my magnet collection. I don't care how cringe it is, I'll still get my magnet. Anyway, I was proud that I knew how to ask how much it was, and I also understood how much it was in pesos, which for me is a good start. I also noticed towards the end of our stay that I got a little more confident. I had already said the same things multiple times, and I guess I was sure I was saying it right, but I was noticing things as well, like phrases or words that people would use often. And of course, I asked, which, taught me some slang knowledge. Before I share my impressions of Mexico and before I dive into how much I wanted to stay longer, I will have to dedicate some time to complain first. And no, I'm not gonna be complaining from Mexico, God no, but from our airline experience before we even got to the airport. So, let's get into it. So, we booked our tickets back in October. Honestly, we booked them a couple of days after I came back from Bulgaria because, yes, I can't stay with no booked vacation. Sue me. So we booked the tickets more than 2 months and a half before our travel date. I can't really tell if the price was good as I had never flown to Mexico at that point, but considering we were booking for during the holidays, I feel like the price was okay. The reservation was a combination of Frontier Airline, a low-cost company in the US, and Volaris, a Mexican airline, also a low-cost one. I had flown with Frontier before, and despite a lot of people having a sucky experience, mine has always been fine. I would say even better than what I would expect. I have used Frontier for short flights a few times, up to 2 hours, so I don't really care if it's not comfortable and if food is provided because I almost don't have time to think about those things on a 2-hour flight, On the other hand, it was going to be my first experience with Volaris. I wasn't interested in researching or doing anything about this airline because, as you all know, the price is what matters to me, and unless I'm going on a 7+ hour flight, I don't give a damn. So tickets were booked, paid, and added to my application 2.5 months in advance. We were going to fly from San Francisco to Denver, Colorado with Frontier, and then from Denver, Colorado to Guadalajara, Mexico with Volaris. It was the day before our trip. We were already packing. And the whole week, I was just thinking about, how I'm going to pack on Friday, close my suitcase, take a shower, and go to bed at 10 p.m. so I can wake up at like 3-ish and be rested for the long trip. I knew it was absolutely possible. I had taken care of everything around the house in advance. I knew what I was taking. Laundry was done. It was doable, So in the morning of the day before the trip, I, as a travel maniac, went to check us in for the flights without even a reminder from the airline. Yes, I'm that kind of person. I knew most likely I was gonna be able to check us in for the domestic flight only, and so I did. I still checked on the Volaris app to see if I could check us in for the international flight, but I couldn't pull the reservation number. I tried contacting them, but I was only connected to a goddamn chatbot that basically confirmed that online checking for international flights was impossible. I was okay with that. We were just gonna, check at the airport, and then I started thinking, where exactly at our airport is Volaris? I had never seen a register for this airline at SFO, the San Francisco International Airport, and I had been to all terminals multiple times. So I googled it, and for a second, it looked like there was a Volaris check-in register, but then I realized there wasn't, which was fine. I guess it meant we had to get our boarding passes for the second flight in Denver, Colorado, where our connection was. Honestly, I wasn't expecting checking to be possible. I just wanted to pull the reservation and see that it's loading. I just didn't like the words "we couldn't find your reservation." It didn't sound very appealing less than 20 hours before our flight. So I kept trying throughout the day and I didn't succeed. Then I got carried away with packing, I got distracted. All of a sudden, it was like 10 p.m. and something was telling me to call them. This little freaking voice inside of you. I guess I just wanted to go to bed calm and assured that everything is fine. Otherwise, I was just gonna overthink, which, as we know, is my specialty. So I tried to find the phone number from the Volaris app, but couldn't, and I googled it, started calling, and finally got a hold of someone. I asked if they can confirm about the check-in process. The guy put a reservation on his site and verified the itinerary, names, and stuff like that. And he was like, "Oh, I see on my site that you have an unfinished payment with our airline." I was like, "What? Unfinished payment that he discovered less than 9 hours before the flight?" Like, it was already the evening. So my heart literally stopped. Like, I was speechless. There went my desire of going to bed early and waking up fresh and rested. I knew the evening was turning into a nightmare at this point. I immediately thought of the worst, which is, we're not going anywhere. With the message I saw earlier that our reservation could not be found, this was just making sense, but how? Like, how is this possible? How did that happen? Unfinished payment? Like, we got charged the very minute we completed the reservation back in October. We paid the full amount at the spot. How was this possible? So I started asking questions. Like, I told the guy that I'm absolutely sure I booked and finalized everything. They wouldn't have sent us the confirmation and everything if we had left something unfinished, And this is not how reservation systems work, and I know it very well. Also, I'm pretty sure if there was something unfinished, they were going to let us know with at least 28 emails encouraging us to complete the step. We verified the last 4 digits of the credit card the transaction was made with and everything else. It was available on his side, but we still had a problem. He explained to me that because Frontier and Volaris are partners, while booking combined flights between those two airlines, there is a checkbox before checkout that you need to check in order to authorize a transaction with Volaris since you're booking with Frontier. I was pissed and disappointed. This honestly was kind of like a hit on my travel ego, How was it possible for me to miss that? Like, I know it was my first time booking a combo flight with these two companies specifically, but come on, like, missing a whole checkbox? Like, I consider myself over careful with shit like that. I always read everything and make sure I'm aware of what I'm agreeing with. For God's sake, I read my contracts from first to last page, no matter if it's like 10 or 28 pages. Well, I guess there is a first time for everything. So this infamous checkbox basically designates that you authorize Volaris to charge your credit card along with the charge for Frontier, or at least that's what he explained. I couldn't believe it. I had never had an issue like that my whole life. I had bought tickets from multiple airlines, combined flights, partnership airlines, and I had never heard of additional payments. That's why they're partners, right? So you can book and pay at the same place without having to deal with two platforms. And I was pissed. I wanted to know how that makes any sense. And also, how come no one notified us that a transaction had not been finished? It was ridiculous. I was angry at myself for booking with a company I didn't research before. I also couldn't understand what this means. Was the price we paid only for the domestic flights with Frontier? Did we get screwed epically by paying almost $1,400 even without including the Mexico leg of the trip? He kept talking about the problem, and I just asked with fear, literally fear. So what does that mean? Like, are we going to be able to fly tomorrow morning? And the guy said, actually, you are calling right on time, because if you had waited a little longer, we were going to cancel the seats. And it's unnecessary to say what kind of relief I felt at that moment. I was just thankful to this tiny voice inside my head that made me call last moment before going to bed. However, said the man over the phone, you will have to pay the fees that you hadn't paid upon booking. I was like, what fees? We already paid for a whole ass airplane ticket, 4 flights, round trip. What are you talking about? I was running out of patience. As much as I was aware it's not his fault and he's not the one who's making the policies, I just couldn't get over the checkbox part. It just sounded like something completely made on purpose. Something put there to purposely confuse people while booking. Like, I'm sure if it was that important, it was going to be designed with huge ass letters or something red and something to really catch your attention so you don't mess it up, What was going on? He was like, yeah, you're really lucky you called. We still have time to fix it. You just have to pay the fees to Volaris and we're going to leave the reservation active. I kind of started feeling helpless because, as unfair as it was, we had to pay. We were flying in less than 9 hours. We pretty much had no choice. I asked him how much the fees were, and he started doing the math, mumbling stuff like, oh, so this and that, and per person, and this and that, and $2.99, and my head just started, hurting and spinning. He was already mentioning a single fee that is $2.99 per person, and he wasn't even finished. He was going on. The total was something like $400 or $500 per person. I was Bulgarian angry, and that's like the highest level of anger you can experience. Like, 500 more per person? It was outrageous. I was like, 500 per person because we didn't check a box and you didn't even notify us that we have something unpaid. This is almost as much as we paid for the ticket itself, like the price, which was supposed to be our round trip. Like, you are making us pay double right now. You're just ripping us off. And he started repeating the same shit, and I was almost reaching out for my wallet, already making peace with the fact that, this vacation would be way more expensive than I thought it would be. I was literally just pulling my card, and my boyfriend said, no, don't give up. Ask for a supervisor or manager. Let's talk to someone else. And thank God he stopped me at that moment. Because sometimes when I'm desperate or extremely disappointed, I kind of just want to, get the thing done and move on. So I act a little impulsive and I don't think straight. I think this was one of these cases. And of course, combined with the fact that we were flying a few hours, it was just one of the times when you say to yourself, fuck it. I just want to, keep my initial plan, charge me whatever. But I asked for a supervisor, and a lady came to the phone and started explaining the same thing to me over and over again. I insisted on getting an explanation on, how the hell were we not notified at such a late stage of our travel time? Like, how come no one ever mentioned there was an incomplete transaction? I even asked her, if I hadn't called tonight, at what point were we going to find out about these $500 fees? For real. Like, imagine I didn't listen to the voice in my head telling me to call. Imagine I went to bed happy and excited about my trip the next morning and then getting to the airport just to find out that I'm either not going to fly at all or I'm going to fly but pay almost the price for one more ticket. I was just losing my patience. I'm losing it. That was the case. She started talking about being able to give us a discount, that she was really sorry. I was like, yeah, that's why all of your customers online are talking shit about you. Anyway, because you scam them first or last moment or whatever, they don't have a choice. I just wonder how you're still in business. I just started rambling. And the lady started again repeating the numbers and said that she can waive some of the fees and she can get it down to $2.99 per person. And also that if we want, we can go to the airport the next day and negotiate on the spot, in case we don't agree with what she offers. I was like, negotiate? Like, I'm not going to the market in Izmir in Turkey. I'm going to fly with a company I bought my ticket from months ago, so no thanks, no haggling. She was like, yeah, I can waive some of the fees, and keep in mind that if you go to the airport, you will pay at least $600 per person, so it's better if you just agree to the price I give you now. I told her I needed a moment, and I put her on mute so we could, decide what to do. Again, my hopelessness was telling me to just pay and accept the fact that this trip will be way more pricey than planned. I just wanted to go to bed at this point, and I wanted to make sure I'm flying the next day. So I was like, fuck it, let's just pay. My boyfriend, though, way more experienced in American customer service than me, and I guess way more experienced than fighting with people, was like, no, let's just go to the airport and explain everything tomorrow and see what they're going to say. Maybe we can really negotiate something and come up with a solution there. While she was on hold, I opened the Frontier application and tried to book the exact same flight as ours, but for the next week, the exact same itinerary. So I proceeded with all the details until payment, and guess what? There was no checkbox shown. I was like, wait a minute, where's the infamous checkbox that I missed? The checkbox that will cost us maybe $1,000? Like, why can't I see it? I started talking to the representative again, and I told her that I don't see the checkbox she's talking about. She started asking if we were going to accept the promotion and pay the smaller amount she was offering. She was just changing the topic and also underlining how much more we were going to pay if we went to the airport and did it there. I was getting more and more frustrated, and at some point, she just said, okay, so you just go to the airport tomorrow and pay $600 per person. Okay, they will give you the boarding passes. And I was like, wait, I haven't decided yet which offer I'm going to proceed with. She was like, my offer is not available anymore. I just marked in the system that you don't want to use the waived fees I offered you. And I was like, hold the fuck on. Like, when did I tell you exactly that I wasn't going to take advantage of your offer? Like, I never verbally confirmed that I was going to go to the airport and pay there. How come you made a decision for me? She was like, yeah, I'm sorry, I can't open the discounts anymore. They're not available. Oh man, like, how many things I wanted to tell her in Bulgarian if she only knew. Like, to piss us off out of nowhere with made-up checkboxes and fees. Then to offer a discount, which is still way expensive, and on top of that, to refuse to give us the discount that she just offered? Fuck no, that wasn't going to happen. I said, okay, since you're the supervisor, can't you just unlock or do something to the discount that you just wanted to give us? She was like, no, sorry, you wanted to pay the airport, so I closed the portal and they're not available anymore. But her voice just said it all. It wasn't that she couldn't restore the discounts. She didn't want to. She was tired of fighting with me, and she was just making the call for us. She wanted to punish us for being rude, which I think she absolutely deserved. So she just removed them on purpose. I asked her about her name, first and last, and I was absolutely determined to speak to someone and report everything as, I'm sorry, but this was everything but customer service. And when I asked for her name, she started mumbling something with Lily. I asked her to spell it for me, and she spelled it differently 2 times. Something was up. Then she said she was just a representative. I was like, I thought you were the manager. That's how you introduced yourself at the beginning of the conversation. Like, this whole thing was just getting sketchy and kind of exhausting. At this point, it was pointless to stay on the phone as we knew she wasn't gonna do anything for us and we weren't getting anywhere. So I told her goodnight verbally and absolutely cursed the hell out of her in my mind and hung up. We decided to call again and see if there would be someone different available, maybe that was gonna, make a difference. So I called the same number and I couldn't connect. I kept trying, but I couldn't get a hold of anyone. And finally someone picked up, and in the middle of my explanation, they hung up. I was like, what the hell is wrong with these people? Like, we tried to call again, and every next time they picked up, they didn't even introduce who we were contacting. And I was like, is that Valeris? And they were like, oh yeah, I can help you with that. Like, a minute later, he would hang up the same way as the previous rep. things started to feel like we were just dealing with some scammers, but good ones. It went through my mind after they hung up on me, but then I was like, how did they have all of our information? They had our names, dates of birth, reservations, complete itinerary, last numbers of the credit card used. At this point, it was getting a little entertaining, and I did what sometimes you do out of desperation and lack of advice. I went on TikTok, which I barely use. I may have an hour screen time on it for like half a year, but sometimes, if it's a product I'm considering buying or an experience, I open the goddamn app and I seek for people who have the same destiny as me. In this case, I was looking for people who were bitching about Volaris, and boy, did I find them. Like, there were a fair amount of videos with Volaris angry customers, but honestly, even with my broken Spanish, I could tell that they're disappointed for different reasons. Like, they didn't have the same problem. I couldn't find anything that sounded like our issue, nothing that mentioned the infamous checkbox that is authorizing the transaction. So at almost midnight, I decided to call it a night and, leave the rest in God's or in the Volaris crew's hands. I couldn't deal with this anymore. When I was going to bed, I tried to mentally prepare myself about paying $600 more the next morning because I just wanted to make peace with it and wake up excited for my trip. So the day comes and we're heading to the airport, super excited to spend 10 days in Mexico and a little anxious about what's going to happen with the payment. And as I mentioned, Volaris does not have a register at San Francisco International Airport, so we needed to talk to someone in Denver, Colorado. While we were boarding in San Francisco, though, I decided to quickly ask the flight attendant who was scanning our boarding passes. I literally asked her if there's anything such as extra fees after a complete transaction and if there's anything needed to be paid due to, the partnership between Frontier and Volaris. She said absolutely no, all transactions upon bookings are final. And she literally set up my mood right at the very beginning of this long travel day. I wasn't worried anymore because I heard it from someone who works for the airline. So we landed in Denver and literally walked around the gate where we were supposed to fly out to Guadalajara from. There was no one there to ask, so we headed to the information desk. I talked to a guy, explained the situation. We kind of wanted to confirm one more time. And I asked what the easiest way for us to get our boarding passes would be. That was the moment I realized he should not work at the information desk. You know how when you work at places like this, people have questions? Like most of the time, those questions are important. And they expect accurate answers about their transportation. Well, that was not provided in this information desk. His answer was honestly something like, I would just go to the gate and they should be able to give you the boarding pass there. I was like, honey, I have never seen people getting their boarding passes at the gate. I have seen people being issued new boarding passes due to a change or an update, but no one will let you at the terminal without a boarding pass. Your answer is not satisfying enough, especially when you start with I would. I want to hear you have to or you must, We're talking about rules here, not about preferences or your opinion. Like, he couldn't even call anyone to ask. Like, what kind of information desk is that? Just felt like I had more information than him. In my opinion, he was probably covering for someone who maybe went to the bathroom, because honestly, that's my only explanation. I'm sorry, but places like this should come with competent people who know the answers. Hundreds of people probably stop there every day. Some of them in a rush, some of them lost, some of them not even speaking the language. And for you to give them half answers and half personal recommendations, it's just not serious. Like, Denver International Airport is one of the 3 biggest airports in the States. There's gotta be someone better and well-trained to answer questions. So he didn't sound convincing at all. He was, what we call in Bulgaria, sending us for green caviar, meaning he was sending us to do something that wasn't going to happen or exist, like something unnecessary. My question was just, was there a Volaris spot inside the terminal where we can talk to someone and explain everything from last night, plus, get our boarding passes? Or we should exit and go through TSA again so we can reach the Volaris registers and do everything there. Well, he didn't have the answer and he wasn't helpful at all, so we decided it was better safe than sorry and headed towards the exit. We exited, then found the Volaris register, got our boarding passes for our second flight to Guadalajara, and also paid the tourist tax required to visit Mexico. We purposely didn't ask anything until the lady said, "You're all set, have a nice flight." Because I ain't a moron. I'm not gonna ask if there were any extra fees before I'm told that I'm all set, you know? When she wished us a nice flight, I said, "Can I ask you something?" and told her the whole thing, even showed her the number we called. She advised us to report it and also took a photo of it herself. So since that moment, we've been even joking that we had saved $1,200. So anytime we would spend money on that trip, or we would splurge, we would just look at each other and be like, it's okay, we can splurge. After all, we saved about $1,200. In general, it took us some time to, go through the register and everything, as Denver is a huge airport and neither of us had been there before, so it was a little confusing at first. We had about 2.5 hours of connection time and honestly, we almost couldn't eat. Like, first the information desk, then going back and forth with the train until we figured out the way out. Then, we got to one of the lounges and the wait time was like 45 minutes. On top of that, we were at a different terminal than the one that we were going to fly from. So at the last moment, we got some freaking McDonald's, which honestly, I kind of hate, maybe except for the fries sometimes and the shakes, and some Dunkin' Donuts. To save the situation and not starve, because of course the last thing I want to is to get on a 3.5 hour flight starving, and trust me, not just me, no one on the plane wants me to be hungry around them. It's just for their sake, for me to eat first. Overall, I had absolutely no issues with Volaris. The flight was fine. Everything was as good as with, other low-cost companies. I have no comments. I was able to kind of forget about the experience from the previous night and really, really thank God that we didn't pay on the spot. Man, what a mistake would that be? Like, I was gonna be even angrier if I had paid for no reason. Like, I'm sure the credit card company was going to reimburse us due to a scam, but still, waste of time and energy. So, after 3.5 hours, we arrived in Guadalajara. If I have to be honest, I was super excited to get a stamp in my passport. I was looking forward to it. I have kind of a new passport, so the pages are pretty empty. And we landed, and there was not really any interaction with officers whatsoever. And everything was digital, scanning cameras, so I didn't get to talk to anyone. And I didn't have to explain to anyone why I'm visiting Mexico, which I honestly was disappointed by because I was excited to practice my Spanish under pressure, Well, I didn't get a stamp on my passport, but at least they gave me a receipt with a QR code, which I decided to keep as a souvenir of my first Mexico visit. I was like, fine, I guess it's enough for me. Little did I know they were gonna take the receipt on our way back. So no visible evidence of me being there, I guess, at least not on my passport. What the hell is this, I want to ask? Like, why does everything have to be electronic now? It kills the fun. Or fine, keep it electronic, scan my face and my passport barcode, but can we still stamp passports? Even if there are no officers to talk to upon entry, just make a freaking device to stamp them the same way, like something next to the one that scans the passports. Like, I know it sounds easy and it's probably not, but I don't know. I feel like so many printed cool things are just going to hell now. But anyway, we started our trip from Guadalajara. This is the biggest city in the state of Jalisco and also its capital. The state is known for being the birthplace of tequila and mariachi music. And I mean, what's more Mexican than those two, right? I loved absolutely everything about Guadalajara. From the weather, oh boy, between 70 and 80 every day, through the beautiful landmarks everywhere, to the absolutely incredible food, the atmosphere, the kind people, the street food, everything was amazing. I was just walking and soaking it all in. It didn't really feel like Christmas or holidays with, this heat, and thank God dry heat, not humid. If it wasn't for the Christmas trees, I could have sworn that it's summer, or at least what summer means to me. So we stayed with a friend who used to live in San Francisco. We stayed with him and his family. Shout out Efra if you're listening, and thank you for, taking us to so many amazing places. Just a moment of appreciation to the friends who not only invite us to stay with them, but also take time to make our experience memorable. We visited so many places, landmarks, museums, and while we covered the most interesting spots for first timers, I'm sure a few more visits would be needed to cover the essentials. It's just amazing to have someone who knows everything about the place and has clear ideas of where to take you. The locals know the best. It is what it is. I, of course, had prepared some places I'd seen and wanted to check out, and turned out they're all on the list of our host anyway, so I was super happy. We spent a good amount of time in Zapopan, a city in the Guadalajara metropolitan area, as first we were staying there, and second, there were a bunch of things to, see, including the center of Zapopan, Basilica de Nuestra Señora de Zapopan, with a small museum aside, the Museum of Arts, the Ark and the Fountain at Zapopan Centro. We went to some indoor and outdoor markets, and let me tell you something. I needed to really control myself because everything I saw, I wanted to buy. Souvenirs were just one more awesome than another, like authentic Mexican costumes and hats everywhere, so pretty and so colorful. You better believe I got my hat. I have another Mexican hat here at home in San Francisco, and it was made in Mexico, but it was bought in San Francisco, so I didn't really count it as a Mexican souvenir. Now I had to have my own one, the one that came from Mexico and it was bought there. Perfect souvenir for my collection. Like, what's more Mexican than that? We also explored Guadalajara Centro, the cathedral with the rotunda, Hospicio Cabañas, the area around, more markets, more street food. Oh man, this is the kingdom of street food, I swear. I can't even count how many things I tried, and not even one of them was less than 10 out of 10. Strawberry horchata, chips with tahini and lime, oh my god. After trying that one, I don't even want to eat any kind of chips anymore. It's just not worth it. It's either this or nothing. Their creme brulee, which I forgot the name of, some other candy stuff. I'm telling you, so many things. Not even starting with drinks. But again, everything was amazing, so flavorful and delicious. Our friend took us to two of the best taco spots in the city, and one of them was on the very first night right after we arrived. I honestly thought that after this place, there would be nothing to top it off with. Well, I guess I was wrong, as on our last night, he took us to another iconic place there, Taco Providencia, and I'm not lying when I say I do not remember how many tacos I ate because I don't keep count of stuff like this, and everything kind of went blurry after they served them. It was just so goddamn good, and I just lost count. Another day we spent in Tlaquepaque, and I gotta say this was probably my favorite place in Guadalajara. From all the photos I saw in advance, I knew I was gonna love it, but when I set foot there, it was even more exciting. So colorful, so vibrant, the architecture was incredible, music coming from everywhere, food on every corner, like what more can you ask for? We walked all over and checked out some galleries, had lunch in an amazing restaurant that I couldn't get enough of. The place was so big and there were mariachi walking around and playing, the food was absolutely incredible. I know I keep saying it, but that was the place where I could pronounce my absolute favorite dish for the whole trip, tortas ahogadas. From what I read and learned, torta ahogada is a Mexican sandwich that originated in Guadalajara in the beginning of the 19th century. So it's a sandwich covered in salsa, and the name literally translates to drowned sandwich. So another interesting part is that this specific taste of the sourdough is a result of the region's climate in Jalisco, Mexico. So you can't just make it anywhere. From what I heard, other states in Mexico import the tortas by plane from Jalisco on a daily basis so they can sell it fresh in other parts of the country. It's kind of crazy if you think about it. Man, just talking about this makes my mouth fill with saliva. I better stop since, I can't get it anytime soon. And honestly, since we came back, I can't crave anything, really. Everything just tastes differently, and sorry, but not in a good way. I don't want to be an asshole, but Mexican food has so much more flavor than whatever they distribute here in the States that the first days after we came back, I almost want to throw up just looking at the food in the store, especially fruit and vegetables. Oh god, like Anyway, if you have been to both places, you would understand the difference. So, one of the evenings, we even got to see the light show at the Guadalajara Cathedral. It was a Christmas thing. I suppose they had every evening during the holidays. It looked pretty cool on this iconic building, so that was something we didn't expect and we didn't know was gonna happen. The second part of our trip we spent in Ameca, about hour and a half outside of Guadalajara, where we got to eat even more and even more often and also celebrate the new year. So weather was amazing, again, hot and dry. We drove trucks and ATVs, we played games, hung out, and just enjoyed the peaceful atmosphere. After some time in Guadalajara and after, in general, living in a big city, being in the country was just so refreshing and nice, much needed too. Towards the end of our vacation, I gotta say, I was hoping for us to miss our flight so we could stay a little longer. I just wasn't ready to go back. Like, usually after the 10th day, I'll have moments when I'm like, okay, I kind of want to lie down on my couch or I want to sleep in my own bed, but not this time. I could use another 5 days maybe, at least. Overall, this trip was amazing, full of so many memories and great places we checked out. The best part was maybe me going out of my comfort zone and forcing myself to speak Spanish in a natural environment for the first time. There were barely 2 people for the last 5 or 6 days of our vacation who spoke English, so it was nice to switch my brain on a different mode for a little bit. The only thing that I was not even a little disappointed by, more like, damn, I wish this happened, it was postcards. I know, I'm a grandma. I still buy postcards and mail them to friends and family. I don't care. Love it. Well, in this case, I only saw one place that had postcards and they were pretty wrinkled and faded from the sun. So I just told myself I was gonna find something better, and I didn't worry for a second because I knew this was something super touristy, so they should be everywhere. Well, I didn't see postcards anywhere else, including at the airport, so I guess they will be another destination with no postcards from in my collection. But yeah, this was my first Mexican experience, which I loved from the very first to the very last moment. This trip was special for me in many ways, so I honestly cannot wait to go back. And since the year had just started, I hope you guys are ready with your bucket lists and your new destinations. I hope the planners are popping and ideas are coming left and right. I wish everyone a year full of passport stamps, or, as we established, digital scanning and face recognitions, and many more conquered destinations. Stay tuned for my next episode, which is ending shortly, and bon voyage!